Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Streggy, and today I have a review for you from a film from 1987, which was directed by John McTiernan, who had just come off the bandwagon of directing Nomads, starring Pierce Brosnan in 1986, and it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's called Predator. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is something about this two-disc um, thing. It's not exactly the best, quality in cases. Entirely, it's entirely paper, and it's flimsy, and uh, I'm always have to re-stick this disc in, this first disc in. So, but this is the special edition copy of Predator, and it is what I have to watch it on. Now, I actually do not know this one as well, or did not know this one as well as I did Predator 2. But because the new Predator is coming out, I decided to go and revisit the film, and I actually realized that I knew the film a little bit more than I thought I did. It's just I've seen more of the action involved in the film than I have the process of where the creature first showed up, and I knew some of the end. So we have Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a character by the name of Dutch, and he's evidently a major in charge of a small group of mercenary soldiers, and he. What I like about this film is that there are some there are some big names like Jesse Ventura, um, Jesse the Body Ventura, who was a wrestler or was a wrestler at the time. Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in Rocky and Rocky 4, and Carl Weathers plays Dylan. Evidently, he's one of his Dylan's one of the army guys that are military men that he knows, and from back in the day, and so he asks Dutch if he can bring his team to Central America to bring back some of his team at the time, and so it's supposed to be a routine mission. Basically, go in, see what happens, and then come back. What ends up happening is that when they arrive, they end up finding the men they find the helicopter, and it's downed in one of the trees, and a little bit later they find three of the men entirely skinned, hanging upside down, and that's when we begin to see something that seems to be watching them in the trees, and that is the beginning of the that is part of what the creature does. Evidently, it sees everything in infrared, and it sees your body heat, and you don't necessarily see the creature that is involved in the film until 3/4 of the way into the film, and that's the thing that's just more disappointing for those who are into seeing or whatnot. They are using state-of-the-art CGI to cloak creature in some kind of um, thing where you don't see the creature; it's hunting them. And meanwhile, they come across an encampment of a military base that is evidently holding one of the men hostage, and Dutch sees uh, one of the hostages get shot, and that's when he tasks his force, made up of uh, Mac, Blaine, Billy, Poncho, um, and Hawkins. Um, and what I like is I like Mac as a character, because he comes in, and he's played by Billy Duke. He's like totally black ops. He doesn't give a shit about Dylan. He doesn't care about. He cares more about the men and getting them out of there. And when his friend Blaine, played by Jesse Ventura, dies, he kind of goes off key and starts talking to himself, especially when he sees the creature, and then he ends up kind of going solo on the creature, and there's a really cool head explosion uh, uh, um, for his death. And I think the special effects in here were definitely up to par. There was definitely a gore factor um, here. I think it's very possible that um, Cannibal Holocaust might have somewhat played a factor, been a kind of a because the creature was somewhat cannibalistic, and you don't really see any of the cannibalistic tendencies that this creature has. All you know is that, you know, it skins its victims, and then, you know, but but there, as Dutch takes his team in to take out this military effort that had shot their hostage. Um, um, there are some really cool action scenes, really cool explosions that happen here, and they go in covert, and it is a simple operation. What they end up doing is there is one survivor, and that a woman happens to be Anna, who is played by Elpidia Carrillo, and for much of the film, um, she doesn't speak English, but then halfway through, it's like, oh my god, I finally have a voice, and I finally do speak English. I mean, at first she tries to get away from the team, and she ends up being witness to the creature, and she ends up being witness to the fact that the creature does bleed. Now, the thing that I find cool in this film is the um, in the very end, as they are trying to get to the chopper, um, Dutch it seems to be very good at setting traps, and it's kind of like a cat and mouse kind of thing, where he finally realizes that that, you know, he can't see him; he's all muddied up. So I think it's really cool that he took him down in the very end, and for some reason, I find it somewhat funny that as the creature died, he laughed maniacally like Blaine had, or who was it? Sonny Landham it had, and Sonny Landham is another character who had an interesting physique. In fact, he played originally in The Warriors, Southern Comfort, Poltergeist, um, and he was also another big action star at the time. He played on the A-Team series in 48 Hours. So I think he was one of my favorite characters in the film as well, besides Schwarzenegger, um, because he was a tracker and he didn't speak much, and yet he had a very low voice. And I think it was kind of cool how he just stopped and kind of sacrificed himself for the team. I mean, I like the fact that this band of commandos had each other's backs, and for some reason, that's what made the characters more likable. I also enjoyed the development of. I enjoyed this one more because you got to see a little bit of character development for the creature. In any case, there was definitely some levels of fear originally when when these films first came out, and I think this film holds up. Um, it's definitely got its level of action still to this day. It just doesn't hold the fear factor that I think it originally did. Um, but that being said, I can see how this director went on to do films such as Die Hard. Um, uh, he also went on to do the 13th Warrior later on, so I can definitely see that he. Um, uh, you can see some of his action in The Hunt for Red October, Medicine Man, Last Action Hero, um, the remake of Rollerball. These are films that this director went on and did, and I can see how he create. I can see the Predator in some of the characters that the Vikings went up against in the 13th Warrior. So, in any case, hopefully you've enjoyed my description of this film. I thought I was entertained once again to revisit the film, especially since I know that they are trying to reboot the franchise, and I needed to go back and visit for my own. Um, and I like revisiting films that came out. I mean, this was a film that kind of, whenever an alien film came out, this one had to top it, that kind of thing. And it was a franchise that I think it was a different kind of an alien. And I think that people liked the fact that you couldn't see the creature at first. And then all of a sudden, bam, it was there. So, in any case, hopefully you've enjoyed my description of the film. Like and subscribe to my page if you have not. And thanks for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are.